right, so so first of all, hi, I'm Karina. Thanks for being here or watching the recording. This is How to Meditate. During the month of September, we are exploring the book, How to Meditate with Pema Chodron. And even though she is a Buddhist nun, I personally find her teachings to be so relatable to my life, and I know that others do as well. You certainly don't have to pick up the book to be able to follow along. This is the second in 4 classes that we're offering for free as a part of the Meditation Center. And I think last week I just sort of gave a little introduction to the book itself. And now this week I thought we would start to talk about the 5 qualities that Pema talks about in her book that you begin to experience or nurture once you pick up a meditation practice. But before we do that, why don't we have a short sit together and then we can dive into the materials. So taking a good seat. And one of the parts of this book that I really like is that Pema does talk about 6 points of posture that we can begin to work with in our practice. The points of posture I use are basically the same, but differ ever so slightly. So please, feel free to modify as you would like as well. So taking a good seat to me means either sitting in a chair, and if you're seated in a chair, your feet are flat on the ground, your spine is nice and upright. And by the way, that is a perfectly wonderful way to sit. So I think sometimes people think that you somehow have to sit on the ground or be able to sit on a meditation cushion. That just couldn't be further from the truth. Please don't let that be a barrier. Anytime you can sit, you can lie down, you can stand. So if you're crisscross applesauce on a meditation cushion like I am, your hips are slightly higher than your knees, and that's to be supportive of longer sits. It's just your knees start to get sore. Your palms can be placed palms up or palms down, and they're not as far forward as your knees. That tends to pull the spine forward. You can place them comfortably on your thighs. And then we like to think of this as an open heart practice. So you can roll your shoulders up and draw them back, and you'll notice the opening of the heart, and then just allowing gravity to take those shoulders naturally down. Your crown of your head is extended towards the sky. And there's a little tuck of the chin. So the tuck of the chin simply helps with your spine. So the spine is upright. I like to think of it as if you stepped on the tail of a snake and it pops up. There's still going to be the curve, the natural curve of your spine. Your sits bones are rooted into the surface that you're seated on. So there is this upright, almost regal position, but there's also softness and gentleness as well. So I think I've heard people say like upright, but not uptight. And then you're welcome to meditate with eyes open or closed. You'll see in Pema's book, How to Meditate, she talks about meditating with a soft gaze down, maybe 5 or 6 feet in front of you. So you're not taking in anything specific. It's a very soft sort of open gaze. However, for the check-in, which is what we're going to do right now, I really prefer to actually have my eyes closed. We take in so much information through the windows of our eyes, and when we close them, then it allows us to turn the gaze inward, which for the check-in is what I'm more interested in. So we've taken a good seat, closing our eyes. And then just for 1 minute before we move into our practice, I'll guide you through what I call the 3 lenses. We're going to notice the contrast of movement and the talking of my voice with stillness and quiet. So just for 1 minute, we're going to sit and try to get as still as you can and as quiet as you can. 1 minute. Now, when you're ready, draw in 3 full, satisfying breaths, just the way that you like them. Maybe in through the nose, pause at the top, and elongated exhale. 2 more. One more. And then just begin by noticing how you're feeling physically today. When you join us on community meditation, you might notice that we do this almost every session or some variation. And while that can feel repetitive, this is a very worthy 3 lenses to use anytime you sit. The mind-body connection cannot be understated. So noticing how you're feeling physically and not trying to change anything here. We're just really noticing the state of affairs. And then noticing how you're feeling emotionally today. So what's the emotional landscape within? And again, we're not trying to change anything. This is just a poking around and getting super comfortable with what is. So how are you feeling today? And if you have it in you, you might kick up the rocks in a corner or two and just notice what else is there. So I was noticing for me, I'm going into town today and I'm excited because I'm getting a new pair of running shoes. So there is this joy and excitement around my new running shoes. But I also am going to the doctor. And so there is some anxiety. And then it's been eh, kind of a tough couple of days. So there's also a little bit of maybe disappointment. So there's this mix, this alchemical mix. What's going on with you? I hope that helps. And then taking a moment to notice the state of your mind. And this can be a little challenging at first. You'll get used to it if you use these 3 lenses, but does your mind feel vast and open? Or does it feel a little bit on repeat? Or perhaps closed down and not very curious at all? Just sort of noticing the state of affairs of your mind. Drawing in a full, satisfying breath here and noticing the movement of the breath in the body. Couple more. And then we'll sit for 1 more minute, abiding with the sensation of breath, noticing the breath in your body. 1 full minute. So in the spirit of self-care, Yung Pueblo writes, feed your fire, cleanse your air, tend your earth, treat your water. Feed your fire, cleanse your air, tend your earth, treat your water. That's Yung Pueblo from the book Inward. I highly recommend it. So when you're ready, fluttering open your eyes if they're closed. And we have just about 10 minutes or so to talk a little bit more about the book, How to Meditate by Pema Chodron. And there are 2 more sessions after this one. In the first one, I think I did just sort of a little introduction to the book and meditation itself. And now we'll dive into her introduction. And I just want to, I don't know if you can see this, but my book is so marked up. I have no other book in my entire library that has as many notes and dog ears and underlinings as this book, How to Meditate. I feel it's a really important and helpful guide for anyone who's looking to start or maintain a meditation practice. I've been at this for about a decade and I still come back to this book again and again. And one of the reasons is because of what she says about why to meditate. And we went over this last time, but just as a review, she says, we do not meditate in order to be comfortable. And I share this with you because when people join the meditation center on Mind Oasis, a lot of times we'll ask the question, like, what are you looking for from a practice? And oftentimes it's around sort of positive things, like I'd like to be a more positive person. I'd like to be calm. I'd like to have less anxiety. And all of those things are worthy. But the truth of the matter is that meditation practice brings us very close up and intimate with life as it is. And it can present space between whatever is happening externally, so an external event, a disappointment, or a joy, and our reaction or response. So not clinging too tightly to whatever joyful thing is happening, knowing that this will change, and not being too turned off by whatever event is happening that isn't pleasant, because we know this too will change. And the other thing that meditation practice can do is that it can bring us very intimate with how we're experiencing whatever is happening. So what do I mean by that? I mean that we we maybe don't want something to happen, or we want more of something to happen. And when we have a strong meditation practice, we can see that. We can see the craving and we can see the aversion more clearly. So one of the reasons that we go through the 3 lenses is to really get up close and personal in the present moment with how we are feeling, how we are experiencing our life. And it's a practice for when things happen, when events happen, and how we can remain unflappable, unshaken, right? Pema goes on to say, in meditation, our thoughts and emotions can become like clouds that dwell and pass away. So the beautiful scent or aroma in your room, it comes and it goes. And when it leaves, rather than craving more, we appreciate it while we had it. And that can be true also with the things that bring us sorrow. So in this book, Pema talks about nurturing 5 qualities that begin to come forth over the months and years that we practice. So as we develop a meditation practice, we will experience changes in our life. We will begin to notice things that we blipped over before, which means sometimes, especially in the beginning of meditation, things can actually feel a little bit stickier. I dare say even worse, in the sense that you're beginning to really notice your life in a more present, mindful way. And as a result, it can feel actually a little more intense. So Pema says the first quality that we might find that is appearing as we have a meditation practice is what she calls cultivating and nurturing steadfastness with ourselves. And it's asking yourself, why am I meditating? And then using the answer to that question to fuel your practice. So if it's to be more patient with a partner, pet, parents, at work, if it's to feel less anxiety out and about in the world, if it's to experience complete freedom and joy in your heart, or if it's seeking full enlightenment in this very lifetime, no matter what the aspiration is, when we cultivate this quality of steadfastness, it means that we show up for ourselves, and we show up for ourselves consistently. So here's what Pema has to say. Through meditation, we are developing a loyalty to ourselves. This steadfastness that we cultivate in meditation translates immediately into loyalty to one's experience of life. It means that when you sit down to meditate, you allow yourself to experience what's happening in that moment. So these three lenses, again, right? If you're practicing on your own, you can invoke these. How am I feeling physically? And if the answer is, I have a huge pain in my left hip, that's just a noticing. We're not trying to change it at this point. How am I feeling emotionally? Maybe today I feel raw and distraught. And rather than shooting an arrow of, I should feel a different way, this loyalty to yourself is, this is how I'm feeling right now, and it's okay. And the third lens that we look through is how we're experiencing our mind. So one of the things we can begin to notice is if we're stuck on repeat. And if we're stuck on repeat, is it serving us? Right? So yesterday I got into it with my partner, and I was definitely stuck on repeat in my mind. But the event had happened, the event had passed, and the only suffering that was going on at that point was up here. So this is where our meditation practice can shift these aspects of ourselves that we'd like to see, quote unquote, improve. You are perfectly whole and complete just as you are, right? But we can all use a little tune-up here and there. So this isn't a beat yourself up opportunity. This is actually an opportunity to see life as it is. And then you decide from your heart space, from your body space, from your head space, how you want to walk in the world. So once I realized I was ruminating, I was able to take a few full, satisfying breaths. I was able to kind of let the rumination go on the exhale and move about my day. Does it mean that the event didn't suck? No, the event sucked. But the rumination was just extra, and I wanted to lose the extra. So Pema goes on to say that when you sit down to meditate and you allow yourself to experience what's happening in that moment, which could be your mind going 100 miles an hour, your body twitching, your head pounding, your heart full of fear or anger, whatever comes up, you stay with this experience. So this is where it takes some courage. It takes courage to have a practice. As you have a consistent practice, which in my worldview is showing up for community meditation a few times a week, having a personal practice that's, maybe 10 minutes each day, but not like an hour once a week. It's more beneficial to sit for a few minutes each day than to try to sit for long periods of time that isn't sustainable and in the richness of your life, right? We're all busy people. So she says, sometimes you sit there for an hour and it doesn't get any better. And you might say bad meditation. I just had a bad meditation session. But the willingness to sit for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, a half hour, an hour, however long you sit there, this is a compassionate gesture of developing loyalty or steadfastness to yourself. So the fact that you sit is a gesture of compassion to yourself. We have a tendency to lay a lot of labels, opinions, and judgments on top of what's happening. Steadfastness or loyalty to yourself means that you let those judgments go. In meditation, you develop this nurturing quality of loyalty and steadfastness and perseverance towards yourself. And as we learn to do this in meditation, we become more able to persevere through all kinds of situations outside of our meditation. I'm going to repeat that. As we learn to sit with ourselves on the cushion, whether it's in a chair, but metaphorically on the cushion, we become more able to persevere through all kinds of situations outside of our meditation time on the cushion. So one of the really important points of meditation from a Mind Oasis perspective is that it's not about cloistering. It's not going into a cave and being alone and outside of the world. We sit together in community meditation. We sit together on our own. We sit in order to cultivate the steadfastness, this loyalty to ourselves, so that when we go out in the world and life happens, we can better manage, regulate, be a helper out in the world. So the meditation that we do formally becomes a way that we can experience our life in all aspects, no matter where we are. In Buddhism, we call this sort of being a householder. And what that means is that we're not monks and nuns in Nepal in a cave. We are out and about in the world. We have pets, partners, friends, we have work, we have community. And so we take what we learn on the cushion and we take it out into the world. And that's how we are what Mr. Rogers calls a helper. So let's just take one moment here. You might place a hand over your heart space and we'll dedicate the merit of our practice. We showed up, whether it's live or for the recording, to explore how to meditate this very powerful way of being, this way of wielding our powerful mind rather than being wielded by our powerful mind. May it be of benefit to all beings. And if you'd like to create a little intention around your practice, maybe for the next 7 days, I'll sit for 10 minutes for 5 days and go to community meditation, some sort of intention around your practice to help develop that steadfastness. And then wiggling fingers, toes, taking a nice stretch. So next week, we'll go through at least the second quality, maybe the second and third quality. Thank you for joining me. And of course, please join community meditation. We offer it 4 times a day. Our teachers are stellar, our guides are stellar. And it's really a wonderful way to get a consistent meditation practice, which means things like steadfastness will amplify. If you do it once in a blue moon, it's better than never doing it, but it's much better to have a consistent practice if you're really looking to develop that steadfastness in your life. So thank you for joining me and have a great rest of your day.